Hey guys, good morning. Hope everybody's doing well. Just going to try my first video here. We'll see how it turns out. A couple things that I want to talk about today is the cell cycle. You know how I love posters, so that's not going anywhere. So here's my poster. We're going to let the camera have a second here to focus on it. We're going to talk through it. Hopefully we'll get it to focus. First of all, we're going to draw a circle in the middle of our poster, and that's going to be our cell cycle. Our cell cycle is going to start with gap 1, G1. And in this phase, you'll see that there is normal cell activity, normal cell function. It's making proteins. It is making organelles. It's doing the things that it normally does on a daily function. If you're a heart muscle, you're working on contracting muscle. If you're a blood cell, you're a red blood cell, you're floating through the body, carrying oxygen on your hemoglobin. If all goes well, the G1 phase actually lasts about half the time. So my picture's not exactly to scale. If for some reason the cell does a self-check and it is not in a state to go on and replicate and make more, it will go into what is called a G0 or a G0 phase. And basically it means G0 for cell division. So the cell will still continue to function and work, and there's a lot of cells that spend a long period of time in here. Your brain cells, for instance, most of your neurons do not replicate. That's why we say that if you go out and you party too much when you're a young adolescent, you're damaging your brain and it never comes back. But on the flip side, there's a lot of cells that have some kind of error with this G0 stage. And if that is the case, then if there's something wrong in the cell, it literally keeps replicating. And if you can stop and think, what is a disease where we know it has uncontrolled growth? Well, that uncontrolled growth, that is where our G0 is not going, and that would be our cancer. So G0 is normal function, but it also controls any cell that needs to be, is kind of like rogue and needs to be controlled. The next phase is called the S phase. S stands for synthesis. And basically what we are synthesizing is DNA. We take your 23 pairs of DNA, one from mom, one from dad, and we replicate it into 46 pairs. Those pairs stay attached until we get up to a cell place or part of the cell cycle where it actually develops or divides. The next phase in our cell cycle is the G2 phase, and that is where the cell is literally preparing for cellular division. G2 is where we see the cell literally grow and physically get a little bigger. We see extra organelles are being built so that when the cell divides, each new cell has everything that it adequately needs. You also see a lot more of the microtubules and the microfilaments being kind of bulking up, getting ready for that. Then we go into this section called cellular division, and I want you to think of it as PMAT. PMAT, P for prophase, M for metaphase, A for anaphase, T for telophase. And that is where the cell is either going to go through mitosis or meiosis, whichever you want to say. And that is totally getting all the cell perfectly aligned so each new cell has all the right genetic information and organelles, and then bam, the cell splits, and we call that cytokinesis. So all this entire area where it is in green is literally called interphase, and interphase is divided into those three components, G1, S, and G2. And then we have the small M phase, which is where the cell goes through. We're going to spend an entire another lesson on synthesis. We're going to spend an entire another lesson on cellular division, one for mitosis, one for meiosis. And then we're also going to talk about protein synthesis, which happens in gap 1 and gap 2. So over here, we're going to be prepping to get ready for protein synthesis. Down below, we're going to be talking about DNA synthesis. And over here, we're going to be putting in our meiosis and our mitosis. You can see happy little cell still hasn't gone anywhere. So if you want to get your animal cell on there as well, you definitely can do that. I'm going to be looking for you to send me a picture of your poster with the cell cycle on it next week, early next week.